What's up everybody, welcome back to another video. Today we're going to be taking a closer look at the Samsung S22. Right here I have the standalone Samsung S22. Now this particular model comes also in a plus size with a 6.7 inch display. The one I'm holding in my hands today has a 6.1 inch display and it compares very well to the iPhone 13 Pro, which is iPhone's flagship iPhone from last year. Before I get any further into this video, I want to talk about Samsung has delivered this time around with their new phones. I think this phone is a complete success, all the way from the body, the shape, the weight, the size. Now naturally it is not a flawless phone, it is not perfect. I think all the products on the market have a lot to offer, but none of them are quite perfect, hence why every company is always improving and always bringing out new content, and more specifically bringing out new products that always bring something more and something new that you haven't seen in the past. Introduction out of the way, I want to start by saying that this product specifically is very similar to a product that I think a lot of you guys watching this video at this moment are already really familiar with. So it goes without saying that this phone is very similar to the iPhone 13 Pro, which I actually have and I use as my daily driver. Very similarly to the iPhone 13 Pro, we are looking at a body and a shape and size that we all seem to know very well. First of all, before we jump into any of the specifics of this phone, before we jump into any of the details and any of the personal observations I've had, I want to say I have been using this phone for quite some time now. I think the actual timestamp for the Samsung S22 has now just passed over a little over 3 months. Let's take a quick look at the visuals and the body of this phone. Jumping right into it, the first thing that stands out is really the phone's shape, its actual body. We're looking at some very flat edges. We're looking at a design that we've seen in the past. We've seen with other products and other brands such as iPhone. We've had the square design for iPhone 12, 12 Pro, 13 Pro recently, and I think this design, I think the flat edges are here to stay. More specifically, I think the overall design of the S22 is very nice. It's a very appealing product, as we have a triple camera system that is nothing new. We've seen this design with other products. The placement of the cameras is actually fully vertical. We have them all on top of each other. We're looking at an ultra wide lens, a regular wide lens, and a telephoto lens. So looking at the phone, the one thing that I noticed as soon as I had it in my hands was that the camera bump isn't actually as big as you think it is. The cameras are very performant, but they look very good on the phone. I think the presentation and the overall design of the Samsung S22 is very well thought out. As I mentioned earlier, we're looking at a 6.1 inch display, which covers pretty much the whole of the screen. You will notice on the front of the screen that the only thing that isn't actually part of the screen is the hole punch out for the front facing camera slash sensor. The sensor offers Face ID, and to unlock the phone, there's multiple ways to get into it. There's multiple ways to unlock this phone, which I actually really like, because it gives you diversity. It makes it a very versatile experience for anybody picking up the phone. People who are already used to the Samsung lineup, people who have already had previous versions of the Samsung S series. Funny enough, my last video was focused mostly around Touch ID and how Apple more specifically has had implemented Touch ID on their phones, and then further on they added the Touch ID on other products. But on the Samsung devices, the Touch ID isn't an actual physical button. So if I try to unlock this phone right now, you'll see I have a two-way security system. So I have a pattern and I have my Touch ID. You can have multiple security patterns. I think this is something more rather into the details, but it makes a difference when you are using the product, and it makes a difference as what kind of customer you are. Essentially, you can mix and match all of the ways to unlock your phones. If you want to have extra security and have your fingerprint, your Face ID, and a pattern, essentially you can pretty much do that. The phone allows you to do so, as it has a multiple security system. The first thing you'll notice about the phone is when you pick it right up, as soon as you set it up, you'll notice that the screen is really bright. It gets super bright, it's very colorful and very vibrant. As a quick comparison to one of the bigger competitors to Samsung, when you're looking at an iPhone product, I think the Samsung screen gets really bright, very vibrant, and very colorful. The one major difference I've noticed in between, for example, the iPhone 13 Pro and the Samsung S22, is that the screen on the S22 is a lot more saturated. The colors are a lot more vibrant, a lot more punchy. Remaining on the topic of the screen, we have a fully optimized 120Hz display, which does not lack in any shape or form. A lot of people will tend to say 60Hz, 120Hz, where's the difference? What am I getting into? Essentially, the 120Hz, roughly what it means is that your screen is refreshing at a faster rate. So for example, if you look at the mathematics of it really quickly, 60 Hz is pretty much the standard for a lot of devices, and 120 Hz is the upgraded, more pro version of it. It's essentially double refresh rate, which gives off the illusion that your phone is running faster because the frames on the screen are refreshing twice as fast. We looked at the body of the phone, we touched up a bit on the first things that come to the naked eye. Now I'm gonna get a little bit more into details of this phone. I'm gonna show you guys exactly what the phone has to offer. I'm gonna give you more of an overall objective perspective on this actual phone. I've been using it for a little while, and I actually put my SIM card inside it. I brought it outside in the outside world. I used it to call. I used it to create emails on a daily basis. I was also consuming multimedia content on it, and after doing all of that, I've rounded up some opinions on the phone and some actual observations that I will be sharing with you in this video, so you can get a better idea and a better perspective on the details of this phone. So let's jump into the first aspect about this phone. When I logged in, naturally after connecting my Google account, the first thing I had to do was go ahead and download apps. And I had to go ahead and download some of my more essential apps, so such as Gmail, Google, YouTube, some of the apps that I use on a very regular basis. And so while I was setting up this phone and downloading all these apps, naturally I ran into the scenario where I had to download multiple apps at the same time. I want to say that the overall download speed of applications can vary a lot. So everything that has to do with small applications within 50 megabytes to 250 megabytes, the download speeds and the download time is very fast and is very responsive. Perhaps on the other end, if you're looking to download applications that require more space on your phone, more specifically that surpass the overall capacity of 1 gigabyte and over. Talking about this, I'm mostly referring to mobile games and a lot of applications that have to do with data transfer and data download. For example, I'm going to take one application in specific that I downloaded when I first got the phone, as I wanted to try it with a brand new display. I'm talking about the popular game called Asphalt 9. It's a racing game on phones that is available across the Google Play Store, the Apple Store, the Android Play Store. And this game has some very good graphics, very high quality pictures, and very colorful environments and ambience. Naturally, when I booted it up on the phone, it looked great. It ran really good and it was very responsive. The controls and everything did not seem to lack. My experience of the mobile gaming side of this phone was rather pleasant. I've had nothing to complain with. Moving right along, I think the one thing that will jump to your eye with this phone is the battery life. Now, earlier we talked about the shape of the phone and how the design is flat and has some slim edges. I want to say that my first reaction when I picked up the phone is I was pleasantly surprised by how light it is and how slim it fits in the hand. Now, as I mentioned earlier in the video, and I tend to keep repeating it, my daily driver is the iPhone 13 Pro, and that phone is relatively heavy, is significantly thicker than this one. So when you're comparing them both side to side, you'll notice that the Samsung has a very lightweight form, and as its body is very similar, it also has its differences. I've been using the phone, as I said, for a couple of weeks now, and I have to admit that the battery is not surprisingly amazing. It's not something that blows anything out of the water, but it is decent and it gets you through a whole day. At the end of the day, I was left with around 10% battery, so you'll see from 8 a.m. to 9 p.m. with moderate to heavy usage, I had about 10% battery remaining on the phone. Now, the next component of this phone is actually very easy to forget, and I think a lot of people to the naked eye on a first glance will actually not notice it. Now, funny enough, how I noticed this particular component is the top speaker of the phone. When you're gonna look at the phone and you're gonna look at the front of the screen, it is very easy for someone to say there's nothing there, the speaker is missing. But in reality, if you look closely, you'll see that the speaker is so slim and is spread out through a wider surface around the screen, where it is close to invisible. You would have to get in very close and look at it specifically in order to really notice it. Now, do I think this really slim speaker at the top is a good thing or a bad thing? I'm gonna say it's a decent thing. The speaker quality and the overall audio quality on the phone, it gets the job done. And for a person that wants to take calls on an everyday basis, who will have meetings on Teams, Zoom, and other platforms of the nature, I think you'll get by just fine with this phone, as the quality of the speakers and the overall microphone is very decent and is more than enough. Talking about the keyboard, it is substantial to point out that you are going to be using the keyboard about 95% of the time on your phone. You will be using the keyboard. Now, minus the parts where you're going to be scrolling or tapping on the screen, you're going to be typing, you're going to be searching informations, you're going to be typing emails, or you're going to be replying to comments on YouTube, as I've been doing with this phone. And I've got to say that the typing experience isn't so bad, but the overall accuracy of the keyboard will have to stay in between the range of 85% and 90%, as a lot of times I was finding myself typing a memo, a texto, or even just a full-on email, and I was making some mistakes here and there. There weren't grammar mistakes, there were simply typo mistakes due to the simple form factor of the keyboard and how then the touch keys on the actual keyboard are very narrow. Now, moreover, on the software side of things, for a lot of the people that are not familiar with Samsung devices, the software is very easy to pick up. It has a lot more free range, and it is a lot more customizable than the software on an iPhone. I'd have to point out that this is the first time that I'm using a Samsung device. I haven't had any Samsung phones in the past, as I've been mostly an Apple product user, and this is my first experience with the Samsung, and I have to admit, I have been nothing but pleasantly surprised. There's a lot of features to this phone that I quite enjoy, and I would highly recommend to anybody, whether you're looking into getting a flagship phone or whether you're looking into getting a newer phone with the triple camera system. Now, for media consumption, I think this phone definitely holds its ground. Watching content, watching videos such as YouTube, Netflix, watching videos and consuming multimedia on this device is nothing short of amazing. As I mentioned earlier in the video, the screen is very bright, very colorful, and very vibrant. So any videos that you'll watch on YouTube with high quality 1080p and plus, 1440p or even 2160p, you'll find yourself really enjoying the quality and the content of whatever you're consuming at the moment. But now I want to talk about the triple camera system on this phone, which is honestly quite surprising, and it does a really good job at pretty much doing anything you want it to do. Now, I want to say that a lot of the pictures that I've been taking with this phone have been actually really good and very high quality. It does a really good job at not killing the colors and keeping the accuracy of the actual picture. Pictures in natural daylight are absolutely stunning. You have a lot of definition and a lot of vibrance and a lot of color into them. And pictures in low light also do very well, as the system and the software with the triple camera lens work together to create this perfect balance and to create a very balanced photo. One thing that really impressed me about the camera system is that when you're shooting videos, you have multiple options. You can shoot regular videos in 1080p 30 fps, but actually your cap is way higher than you would think it is. You can shoot all the way up to 8K videos in 24 frames per second. I've actually shot a couple of videos in outside lighting and in indoor lighting just to give you guys a reference of what the 8K footage looks like. I'm gonna be honest and say that the 8K footage on this phone is not surprising, it's not amazing, but it does get the job done, and it is a natural 8K footage. It only has 24 frames per second, so most people looking to buy this phone will not use the 8K footage and will never record videos in 8K, as 8K videos do take up a lot of storage and they're very heavy and not necessarily easy to share and to transport. Now, this phone only has one port, and that is a USB-C port at the bottom for charging. Now, earlier I mentioned how the battery life was relatively decent and it will get you through a whole day. When it comes down to charging the phone, actually this is an aspect about the phone that I really love. The USB-C port and USB-C cable that is provided within the box will actually give you a very pleasant experience. I remember the first few times when I was using the phone, I would let the battery drain. Actually, the charging system is very detailed on this operating software. It'll show you exactly how fast is the battery charging. It'll give you a time estimate on the screen. Typically, let's say you're gonna charge your phone when the battery is sitting at 10% or lower. So I remember I plugged in the phone when the battery was really low. Honestly, the fast charge allowed the phone to charge within pretty much an hour. The whole battery had been completely charged. So that about wraps it up on the Samsung S22. This has been a review for 3 months and a half. I have to say that overall this phone is relatively amazing. So before I wrap up this video, I really want to know who has a Samsung device at the moment. Do you have this specific device at the moment? Are you using it? Do you like it? Do you hate it? Do you want to make the switch? Or has this video helped you in any shape or form get a better idea of this phone? If it has, please let me know in the comment section down below, as it would really help me improve my future videos. I think a lot of people will also find a very sweet spot for the S22 Plus with a slightly bigger screen. Now, with that being said, I hope you've enjoyed the video. Make sure you give it a like and you subscribe. Also, if you want to see more videos in the future, make sure you hit that bell notification, as a lot of people tend to forget that it still exists. It'll give you a notification every single time I upload. Now, with that being said, I'll catch you guys on the next video, and until next time, peace.